Hello and welcome to the show. Prashant Ruia, the director at Essar, is right here with us. Prashant, so good to have you on CNBC TV 18.
Thank you.
Of course, it's a large transaction, 86,000 crore rupees. So give us a breakup of how you're going to utilize the funds that you have now got, and the valuations are on the higher side.
Thanks, Nisha. I think, firstly, just to clarify, the transaction is really two parts. There is a 10.9 billion valuation for the Essar oil piece, and then there's an additional about $2 billion for the port, which is becoming part of this transaction. Overall, we believe that the transaction did attract a lot of interest from various global players, and we believe, and we're very happy with the final transaction which we closed yesterday with a consortium of Rosneft and Trafigura and United Capital Partners. In terms of the utilization, I mean, this is an enterprise value, so it includes operating company debt, which will obviously move along with the company which is being taken over. So approximately 5 billion, a little more than $5 billion of debt moves along with the asset, and then the rest, a part of it is being used to de-lever the holding company, and we expect about 5 billion of debt to be used for that, which will largely, substantially de-lever the holding company. So totally, in terms of utilization of proceeds, nearly 10 billion, which is about 70,000 crores of de-levering will take place as a result of this transaction for the group.
Do you think it's the end of debt woes for Essar Group in your view?
I don't believe, we really, I don't subscribe to this debt woes situation or story. We went out and made very, very large capital intensive investments. We brought a lot of equity. And normally for any of these transactions, about 1/3 of the investment comes in the form of equity. Some of the projects got into difficulty because of some of the regulatory problems which we have had. And that gave concern to the debt, effectively, of those projects. I do believe that many of those issues have been addressed, and yes, I mean, from a group perspective, we have once again demonstrated our ability to build projects despite all the problems one faces in the Indian context, grow these businesses, create value, and then monetize at the right time.
You have created assets which have been sold to these foreign investors. Vodafone has come in, Rosneft has come in. So Prashant, what is your plan for Essar Steel?
Now in the last 1 year, things have turned around for the steel industry. Obviously, on top of that, we had the global headwinds which commodity sector faced last year. We had a significant drop in the steel prices and iron ore raw material prices. And we had the added feature of dumping which was happening from China. So this all together became a fairly heavy mix for the sector. And thankfully the things have changed a lot in the last 9 months. Government of India has taken some very proactive steps by introducing MIP and anti-dumping, which has stopped the influx of dumping of Chinese steel. We have most of the issues which we faced in terms of project completion are behind us. The plant is now operating at about 70% of capacity, and in the next 2 quarters we hope to be close to full capacity. So most of the things which were affecting the industry and Essar Steel in specific have been addressed. And we are looking to the banks we're working with the banks to do a restructuring within the guidelines, whatever is permitted, so that we can move on and continue with the asset.
So you think that S4A guidelines, that those being relaxed, will be in your favor in terms of restructuring Essar Steel's debt?
Well, I don't know finally what the guidelines in terms of relaxation. We've all heard that government and the RBI are re-looking at some of these guidelines because they've not really been that effective in the last few months or in the last 2-3 quarters. We will await to see what comes out, but we are certainly hopeful that we are able to restructure quickly, and we are able to move ahead. Move ahead in the company. The company itself is performing significantly better now than it was last year.
So you're getting so much of funds coming in, which is going to deleverage the overall group by the Rosneft deal. Now, is that some bit of money also going to flow in Essar Steel by way of equity?
Yeah, it's a very good question. The answer is yes. We will, whatever additional equity is required to achieve the restructuring will be set aside. I would also say that the actual money required in Essar Steel is not very much, because the capital investment is largely completed, and the plant's already fully operational and generating very reasonable revenue and margins. So it does not require a huge amount of funds, but at the same time, whatever is required, we will provide it as part of the restructuring.
All right. And are you also looking at some equity participation coming in from some financial investor in the steel business? Because there is a turnaround in the cycle.
Yeah, at this point we don't need it, because we have
now you have equity.
Exactly. We have done with the monetization which has happened. We have the ability to fund this ourselves. So right now the focus is to grow the business, to get it to a level where we are able to gain the benefit of all the investments which have been made over the past few years, and then we will see.
All right. So, Prashant, obviously the banking system is also working with the companies which are capital intensive right now, and steel, power, these are some of the sectors which have been on top of their list as far as their exposure is concerned. Are there meeting grounds with the banks? Would you be okay with if they convert some part of the debt into equity and restructure the entire company so that it can be very able and viable going forward?
Nisha, all I can say right now is that there are going to be certain guidelines within which all the companies are going to get restructured. Whatever those guidelines are will be at par for most of the companies which fall under those guidelines. We will follow the guidelines. If those guidelines mean some equity needs to be, some debt needs to be converted to equity, well, then obviously we will have to fall in line with the guidelines. But we are confident that we will be able to find a resolution, and we believe that the assets which we have on the ground, which are now fully performing, are world-class assets, and there's no reason that they can't deliver in the future. Just to give you a similar case, even in the case of Essar Oil, we did face some issues, about a decade ago, when the project was stalled and we went through a delay. But we worked with the bankers, we worked with all our stakeholders, we completed the project, and the result, and we then ran. In fact, we doubled the project. In those days, it used to be a 10 million ton refinery. Then we went ahead and we did an expansion. We brought it to 20 million tons, built a retail network, and the result of that is where we are, in terms of
$11 billion deal that you have got.
Plus, there's a very real opportunity to expand the refinery, and build as the demand for petroleum products keeps growing in the country. We have the ability to expand the refinery, which was also one of the factors which attracted Rosneft and Trafigura for this investment.
Right. So, yes, you're still in the refinery business in your UK asset, Stanlow Refinery. But one question I definitely wanted to ask you, sometime back you had stated, you had issued press release saying that you have hired some banks for sale of equity in Essar Steel. Things have changed tremendously from that time to now. So should we say, the way you are confident about the steel sector now, that sale is off the table?
Yeah, absolutely. I think very much so. That was a period, it was a year ago. It was a period when there was a lot of uncertainty around the steel sector. There was huge amount of dumping taking place. The global situation was very, very different. I think things have moved on a lot since then, and we are looking ahead.
All right, so you sound optimistic about this. One more question about the transaction that you have just signed. Are the minority shareholders of Essar Oil going to get some differential? Is there an upside to the valuation at which the delisting happened and to which, compared to the transaction valuation?
Yes, I think it's a very good question because the answer to that is yes. When we did the delisting of Essar Oil, one of the things which came up was there was already talk of some transaction, and so we actually approached, as part of our discussions, we approached SEBI and said that we could suggested that one of the things which is possible is that we make sure that even though the company is delisted, if there is a transaction at a higher price, we will compensate the minority shareholders.
Yes.
This is really the first time that something like this has happened in a company which has actually been delisted. This of course was accepted, readily accepted by SEBI, and they gave it back as one of the conditions of the transaction, of the delisting. And so the company was delisted at a price of 262 rupees a share. We do believe that once the final numbers come out, it will be at a price higher than 262. And therefore, we don't know the exact amount, because right now what has been agreed is an enterprise value. Yes. And by the time the deal closes, the debt and the current assets and current liabilities will need to be accounted for. And then we will arrive at the real final equity value. We do believe it will be more than 262. And the difference will be compensated, obviously, to the minority shareholders. At the same time, when we get, the majority shareholders get their share get their value or they get their cash for the shares.
So equity valuation at the time of delisting was about $5.8 billion. How much of an upside are we expecting? If you could give a range.
I don't have the exact number, and I don't want to give just an estimate, because that won't be right. But it will be more than 5.8 for sure. And the benefit will go to all the shareholders equally.